Welcome to Source Not Found, a show about the worst versions of your favorite things. Every other week, we take an IP, franchise, or fandom and examine it solely through its sequels, spin-offs, and side projects, basically anything but the source material. My name is Bo Woodall, and I am the distinct lack of conversation about hats in this book.
And I'm Brandon June, and I am a crude sophisticate with pure genius for ancient languages and cuneiform, unfortunately adulterated with a swine-like lack of breeding or manners.
No shit, I had that bookmarked for what I was going to do for my quote until I remembered the whole hat thing.
I was worried you might.
Hi guys.
Speaking of hats,
our
subject this month is, he's got a pretty iconic hat.
He does. One of my favorite hats. It is Indiana Jones and the White Witch, a novelization from 1994 by Martin Caidin.
Mm-hmm.
This was your idea, bud.
Yeah, it was.
This was a you thing.
Was this your first Indiana Jones book?
My first adult Indiana Jones book. I read some of the Young Adventures of Young Indiana Jones when I was younger.
Okay. How were those?
They were young adult Indiana Jones books. I was down. Like, I loved every second of it.
Maybe I should check those out, because this is my second Indiana Jones book, and I haven't had a good time either time. I've also read In the Army of the Dead, and I think that was a little bit, I don't know which one was better, or which one was worse.
This one sucked. Like,
it's a great...
It's a great nothing burger.
You saw I couldn't finish that sentence.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Okay, I saw that there was an Indiana Jones book that involved Merlin and fucking fairies, pixies and shit. I was like, well, we gotta read that. I mean, we can't not read that. We just did Arthur, too. We did 2 months on Arthur. This is the perfect follow-up.
Yeah, it's great.
No,
it's awesome. No, it sucks. It sucks so bad.
Okay.
Wait, hang on.
Most of you probably don't know what this is. We should tell y'all.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So before we get into how much this sucks and I hated every moment of it, I'm becoming you.
Yeah, you are. We're switching.
Yeah, it's strange
because I didn't like it, but well, did I have fun? I like the airship. I like the zeppelin bit because it's a zeppelin.
Okay. So I'm going to read the synopsis. Back of the book synopsis. Yeah. Again, Bantam Books, 1994.
Mm-hmm.
Magic and murder. England, 1930. It begins when a gang of hooded thugs breaks into the secluded home of a modern-day witch deep in the mysterious New Forest. Stolen is a map that will lead Indiana Jones and fiery fellow archaeologist Gail Parker to an incredible discovery. Somewhere in the world is hidden an enormous hoard of gold, including ancient coins from the time of Christ, coins meant to spread Christianity. With the aid of a young mistress of Wicca, the age-old religion of white witchcraft, Indy and Gail risk their lives on a round-the-world quest for the long-lost treasure. Racing them to find it is a cunning and ruthless criminal mastermind who has set his sights on world domination. But Indy and Gail have formidable weapons, the powers of Wicca, the sword of the legendary Merlin, and Indy's own adventurous brand of magic. Fuck that synopsis.
Okay, but like, in my defense, you read that synopsis, like, are you not
entertained?
Yeah. Right, well, maybe not entertained, but like, aren't you curious?
Very.
Aren't you all curious hearing that? Don't you want to know more about those events?
The problem is, not all of those events are necessarily true, right? Is Gail Parker an archaeologist? I thought she was a pilot.
At no point did she do any
archaeology. No. In fact, she's constantly asking him archaeological questions.
Yeah. I guess it's like one of those things, like they are in an archaeological adventure, and so maybe in the process of doing that, she becomes one. We watch her become an archaeologist.
Like, Indy is slowly trying to become a pilot and just doing real bad at it.
That's the thing. It's like, you don't need to like say she's a thing just to like give a sense of like what she does in the book. Like, she has a resume, I guess I should say. Like, she is an accomplished pilot, the most accomplished pilot in the book, hands down.
Yeah, no doubt.
Just say that. Just say what she actually is.
And okay,
she's got a lot going for her. She's a cool character.
This is actually probably something that would make you more likely to read the book that's incorrect about that synopsis. Hooded thugs don't break into her home.
Yeah.
Her entire hometown gets massacred. 30 people die in the first like 20 pages of this book.
Yeah, it's like a kind of a whiplash first scene. It's like,
wow,
kind
Brandon,
of like goofy.
Really? You're better than that. Whiplash? Come on.
Oh, I'm not better than that. I'm perfect. I'm just that. I'm exactly that. I didn't even realize what I was doing there.
Damn it. That got me.
I don't know what I was gonna say. Okay.
Whiplash.
It's just
the
Indiana
murder
Jones
in the
taking
beginning.
pilot lessons and like throwing up all like through the cockpit and just getting like thrown around with Gail is his instructor, and she's like very accomplished, and she's doing wacky wild maneuvers, and then just like, hey, what's that over there? Oh, that's just everyone I know and love burning alive.
Yeah, that's my entire adopted family being immolated. Cool. So, okay. I want to do a quick rundown of the segments of this book, because they do kind of lay it out like an Indiana Jones movie, right? You kind of have the opening with a flash of violence. The map gets stolen by whomever. Then they go to London to try to track down the people who stole the map with the help of MI5 and Scotland Yard. Then they're on the Zeppelin, and then they're in America.
Florida. Right outside Jacksonville.
So that's where they travel, and the entire thing is this hometown of Gail Parker has had a map for what they say, like 60 years or something like that, because it was a Confederate treasure that got, or a treasure going to the Confederacy that got lost, and this takes place in maybe it was 98 years or something. What, it doesn't matter. Nothing matters. They're trying to find.
At no point did I care enough to try and.
They're trying to find like $500 million in 1930s money of gold bullion, and then all of these ancient coins. And this map was stolen, and they're trying to find the dudes who killed members of a tertiary character's family and stole the map, and they're trying to beat him to the map, basically. That's, and with them partially is the person whose family got murdered, and she has Excalibur or Caliburn, as well as the mythical scabbard that we kind of talked about with King Arthur that can heal any wound or cure any disease when you wear it.
And it really is just like bad guys, just generic bad guys, because, man, there's just nothing to feel or think about the big bad in this. And everything is sort of built on the foundation of, why are we motivated to follow these characters? Why are they doing what they're doing? And like, why is the bad guy bad? It's like, well, they killed everybody at this like Wicca secret little like
town
coven,
sort of thing,
coven, but like little society, like kind of hidden magically in the woods, like in plain sight, but then also like kind of magically protected with like, I mean, it's kind of neat ideas. Like, you can't really enter and exit this little civilization unless they want you to. Like, fog will roll in, or like the roads kind of work like a magical like Mobius strip, where like you just drive past, like you head in one direction and you just keep looping back and seeing the same tree, same scenery again and again, you know? Stuff like that. But yeah, like at no point, like I can't even remember the name of the villains. I don't remember the name of the villain.
Carusa,
really,
I think.
There it is. Sure. Who gives a shit? Like, they were nothing. They were seriously nothing.
That's the funny part. He had 3 names. Maybe like he had like 2 aliases and his name, or 3 aliases and his name, because he doesn't matter. Like,
he really doesn't.
He gets a different name every 3 chapters. And they're like, oh, that guy, his real name is this. He's an arms dealer.
Yeah. We never deal with him. We just sort of follow him through the book. He's just a reason for us to cross the Atlantic on a Zeppelin and then go to Florida. And then like we don't even have like much of a confrontation with him at the end. Like he gets fucking just wrecked, like stampeded by Civil War reenactors.
So stupid.
It's so stupid. All right, yeah. I mean, I don't want to jump to the end, but I've accidentally kind of done it. Maybe we should save that because the end of this book is a fucking joke.
The whole book is okay. I hate. Okay, I'm just gonna.
You do hate.
Yeah,
I feel.
I'm gonna instantly go into my biggest problem with this book, and it is the fact.
Oh wait, we were gonna play a game.
Oh, okay, yeah. I forgot
because you don't usually get this livid. You're heated.
I am very upset. Yeah.
I was gonna try and figure out like what about this book most pissed you off.
Okay, I love this.
You told me it pissed you off, and that did surprise me because I didn't have like it sucks, but then there's kind of some interesting things about it. But I don't enjoy it. But I don't really feel any like visceral hatred for it. But you do.
I do very
like,
much.
Okay, that has to be like hitting a nerve somewhere about something you care deeply about. And I know that thing is Merlin. Like I know that's a thing that you care deeply about. So like my best guess is the scientification of Merlin's magic. So like we get a lot of lore about Merlin, and it's sort of like they spend a lot of this book. Just characters like talking back and forth,
exposition,
like really
constantly. Just god damn, so much exposition.
It feels like reading through a Reddit post about two people arguing about like whether a certain magical spell could be like physically possible in our like given our reality and our laws of physics, and it's just so tedious.
Yeah, this is the deepest dive in like the D&D subreddit that you don't want to open.
Oh my god, it's like neither person really makes their argument well, and in the slowest, most annoying way possible.
Yeah.
And then by the end of it, it's like, you know what, I was on your side, but I kind of want you to lose now because you're so fucking tedious. So I was thinking like maybe that, like, because they explain away a lot of things like, oh yeah, the way that you're able to like unleash this energy, it's actually a battery. Like this scepter actually had a battery inside it. It's not magic. It's not a magical spell. It's like that might really piss Bo off. But was that not it?
That's not it. I mean,
Okay.
I didn't like that a whole bunch.
Yeah. Me neither.
So, okay, my problem is twofold. The first problem is Indiana Jones has always stayed in his lane.
Mm-hmm.
He is a skeptic and he is scientific. Like, despite everything he sees in Temple of Doom, Raiders, and Last Crusade, he is still a skeptic. There is an explanation for everything, right?
Yeah.
But in this book, he believes in magic.
Yeah.
Fuck you. No. You cannot do that to a character whose main, like, one of my favorite personality traits about him is the fact that he solves real puzzles. Like, the whole scene of him putting on an antenna and getting absolutely shad-racked by Stonehenge, I actually liked that scene. Like, that made me...
Yeah.
I could see Indiana Jones doing that.
Uh-huh.
But he's constantly wishy-washy in this book about believing in magic and then suddenly being able to explain how magic functions while still not being able to explain other things and being fine with not being able to explain those other things.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like that. Like, I know in all of the Indiana Jones movies, he experiences the supernatural, right? That's kind of the main point, is like a skeptic in the world trying to prove things that he can't comprehend based on science. But he's never fine with it. Like, he's never fine with not being able to explain the Lost Ark in his mind in the movie is a beautiful, like, historical object, but it is a superstition. And he believes that up till the very end.
Yeah, although on that point, he is the one. It's like, you got to shut your eyes.
Yeah.
You know, we can't look at it. Like, he recognizes the supernatural abilities of it.
Yeah.
Like the forces contained within. So he does accept some things, like, when they come his way. pretty readily.
But in this, he is accepting everything immediately.
He doesn't really give a whole lot of pushback, not as much as you would expect. On like one of the first scenes is like after, I think this is after the massacre, right? Or is it? I'm trying to remember now. No, it's a flashback to how he first met Gail.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
In the woods, and like she fells a boar, and then he's like, "What's that sound over there?" or something. I'm trying to remember how it goes exactly, but like, oh, those are the pixies finishing off the rest of the
forest,
carcass.
the forest folk. Yeah,
the forest folk.
I just that really frustrate. Like the characterization in this book was very, very frustrating. I never would have thought Indiana Jones was going to be a whiny bitch, and there are times in this book he is a whiny bitch, and I can't.
A couple things, like I highlighted a couple moments, like I can't imagine Indiana Jones saying, "I bet my bottom dollar," just as a phrase. Shit like that. It's like, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he said that in a movie sometime.
He
but
said several times,
feel right.
Bug off.
Yeah, he also does like he gets like really goofy and does like some like impressions. There's like a scene where he's like he like pulls his lip back. He's like, "Oh yes, very very interesting," or something like that.
Yeah.
Like some kind of nonsense like that. Like I can't imagine Indiana Jones. I'm trying to conjure up the image of him doing this,
and I can't.
And it's just like it's just my brain's like source not found.
Yeah,
seriously.
Like, 404. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, here's a dimension of his character that I don't know if I'm reading too much into this. Is he a fucking Confederate? Because he seems to like those Confederates a lot more than he should.
So I also was curious about this.
Okay. There is a scene, where is it? It's when he's meeting Pencroft.
Yeah.
So Pencroft says, by the year 1863, some 67 years ago, England was suffering severely because of the war being fought in the United States. He smiled at Indy. You will forgive my use of the term Civil War, so often referred to as the war between the states. Or, Indy commented, Yankee aggression. What the fuck? It's not like Indy said ironically or like with, disdain, yeah, Yankee aggression. He just says that.
So I did note that. And then I realized something.
Yeah.
This author did not, there is no real personality that he locks down for Indy in this book.
Yeah.
With that line, you could tell me he was a Yankee or a Confederate, and I would believe either one in the author's mind. I have no idea what this Indiana Jones is or wants or, believes.
Does he want his Indy to be like a sort of milquetoast fence sitter on the Civil War issues? Like, I don't want to alienate any potential Southern readers with this one. So, you know what? Maybe it was about states' rights. Maybe, Indy could be that. Or maybe, just he's whatever you want him to be, reader. Like, you're not coming down on the fucking Civil War issue. He even, he refers to them throughout the book as Rebs.
Right.
And I was like, I'm sorry, you shouldn't, yes, they are rebels, but, that makes them sound cool. You shouldn't make them sound cool. Call them the fucking slavers, or what they were.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No. It's just, what are we doing here? What are we doing here?
There's another aspect of his personality that I wanted to talk about. Because I understand that it is...
Also, real quick, sorry.
No.
He was born in New Jersey, Indiana Jones. I looked this up. I didn't know this. Princeton, New Jersey, right?
Yeah.
So what is North? He should know where he stands.
I firmly believe that Professor Henry Jones Sr. fought for the North.
Yeah.
Which is why I can't see Indy as... I just... Okay. I can't.
Yeah, and the book doesn't explicitly make him, but there's enough there where I was noticing wait a second. Let's make note of this line I was curious phrasing here.
Okay, Indy, I know that you're a history professor and stuff, but your specialization is medieval literature, cuneiform, and ancient languages. You should not be this into Confederate history. But then I guess at the same time, it was his dad's war, probably.
Yeah.
So like maybe his dad raised him calling them Rebs because that's what they called them.
Yeah, again, like I don't know how much of this actually is fine and checks out.
Yeah, I don't either.
I'm just thinking too much into it. It really was just the line like Yankee aggression, and then after you said that, after he said that, I started looking for more.
Yeah,
like I started noticing more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I didn't like that at all. Because he could have said Indy says sarcastically. All we need is one worm. Like if he would have said sarcastically or Indy says firmly, like
yes.
Either one of those, give me something to work with here.
Make it definitive. Like if you're like, what are you trying to do? Because again, this is not a book that like leaves things to the imagination. It's very explicit to the point of like spoon feeding you multiple times. Where actually, I have some notes about stuff that like, oh, that would have been really clever if you hadn't just like dropped like a searchlight on it, like a spotlight,
right?
And just said like, hey, this is like the subtext here. And then like in a moment like this, like, how did he say that? Did he mean that ironically, or I don't know. We don't know. I have like a moment here. So this is near the end. Indy, would you tell me how you worked your magic? Caitlin asked. He didn't answer immediately. He was still taken by surprise that Caitlin was calling him Indy. Before it had been Jones, or even a stilted sounding Henry Jones. Now she'd dropped all barriers. That small shift signified the enormous shift in her relationship with him. He was now family. And as sure as the sun rose and fell every day, he hated to tell her there wasn't any magic in that incredible performance they'd all just witnessed. I think moments like that could be some subtly like clever writing, like her referring to him as Indy instead of Dr. Jones, like she has been. But then you just like, he again, just like calls it out like, hey, notice what I'm doing here. Notice this character change.
Right.
And then like elaborates on it. So like, he's not subtle
at all
with the writing in this.
No.
Yeah.
It okay. And that leads to the other personality trait that this author shoves on Indiana Jones so hard. Like, it's always been in the movies. Indy has always been chauvinistic. Like, oh, doll, let me take care of that for you. Like, you know, dames and broads and on all that jazz. A sign of the times or whatever. But with that, he also recognizes in the movies, at least I think, that most of his female companions are bringing shit to the table. Like he knows that Marion is a badass. He knows that the weird Nazi lady in Last Crusade is actually brilliant. And he knows that his female companion in Temple of Doom has things to offer when it comes to how she interacts socially and that sort of thing. Like, he's a chauvinist, but he also finds like the things to respect in his companions that he sees, you know?
Yeah.
He's just a dickhead in this book.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, he is.
Everything he says.
Again, he's a Redditor.
Yeah. He's a 1930s troll. Like, nothing he says to any of, like, he even says at one point, Caitlin could absolutely wreck his shop. But he still constantly condescends to her and Gale, despite the fact that they have expertise that he could be very easily using. I just...
Yeah.
This Indiana Jones, not my Indy.
Okay. On that point, I had some moments like that too, like not my Indy, but then some things were brought to my attention recently, and I don't know if there is a my Indy. I don't know if I like Indiana Jones.
Okay.
I don't know if you're aware of this. Okay. There's a scene in the book that will sort of get us to this point. I think this is on page 207. So this is when Gale and Indy have gotten their new identities for their trip to America on the Zeppelin. And they're being driven. Indy leaned back. He seems to have covered all the bases. Tell me, how long have we been married, so to speak? 7 years. You were how old when we got married, according to these records? 17, something like that. The driver glanced back at them. Cradle robber, he sneered at Indy. And yes, actually, because in Raiders of the Lost Ark, Marion, like, they have a history when they reunite in that film, right?
Yeah.
In the lore of that film, Their relationship started when she was like, I think 15 or 16, and he was a grown man. She even says to him, I was a child. And you could maybe, I don't know, like give that phrase the benefit of the doubt. Like, oh, I was young, a lot younger than you, but I was of like legal age. But no, she wasn't. She wasn't. And I'm sorry to do this to you because this destroyed me, but this was shared with me. There is a Polygon article from 2015 by Ben Kuchera. Indiana Jones was an abusive creep, but he was also much worse. In this article, they share a transcript of a conversation between Lawrence Kasdan, George Lucas, and Steven Spielberg. And I'm sorry,
but not Harrison Ford.
You have to know it too.
Not Harrison Ford, though. Not Harrison Ford.
Not Harrison Ford. Just the creative minds, the writers of his character.
Yeah.
So here's Kasdan. I like it if they already had a relationship at one point, because then you don't have to build it. George Lucas. I was thinking that this old guy could have been his mentor. He could have known this little girl when she was just a kid, had an affair with her when she was 11, Kasdan, and he was 42, Lucas. He hasn't seen her in 12 years. Now she's 22. It's a real strange relationship. Spielberg. She had better be older than 22. Lucas. He's 35, and he knew her 10 years ago when he was 25, and she was only 12. Lucas again. It would be amusing to make her slightly young at the time. Spielberg. And promiscuous. She came on to him. Lucas. 15 is right on the edge. I know it's an outrageous idea, but it is interesting. Once she's 16 or 17, it's not interesting anymore. But if she was 15 and he was 25 and they actually had an affair when they last met, and she was madly in love with him and he, Spielberg, she has pictures of him, it just sort of ends there. Indy is not my Indy.
Okay. Fuck.
I'm so sorry.
Fuck.
I have to know this, and now you do too. Now, I will say, this is them. I mean, this is like an awful, disgusting, horrible conversation that, like, they are just spitballing here. So, like, it did change in the final, but it didn't change enough. I just, George Lucas gets a lot of hate for,
a lot of things, and this is a good
to the original trilogy.
He said 11 years old. He said 11 years old. Spielberg had to say, she better be older than that.
You were recently complaining about the extra clamshell fucking nonsense with the Sarlacc pit, and, I see that, and I raise you a human being that earnestly said the phrase, when she's 16 or 17, it's not interesting anymore. And then add that to Steven Spielberg's, and she came on to him. What the fuck? What the fuck? Anyway.
This is
So there's that.
That's gross, man. That sucks.
It's fucking gross. So Indiana Jones kind of sucks. I wish he didn't, but there's that. And they just sort of like, that's in that first movie, and I don't think that idea comes up again, but then it came up again in this book. So like, I think I need to share this awful news with the world, with you. So there it is. Okay, here's something that I marked a couple things.
This past conversation has genuinely like kind of hurt me.
Yeah, I want to move on. let's get on the Zeppelin and sail out of here. The Zeppelin was cool. Before I get there, okay, I liked this bit of dialogue. I pulled this out. I think it's just a funny idea. I don't know that I like the idea. So I think I just have this in my notes. I think this might be Gale. Probably Gale, not Caitlin. I think this is after they've been discussing like caliber and some of like how the scabbard works.
Oh yeah, this was Gale.
But it's not about the scabbard particularly. Why? It's simple deduction. I saw the crystals glowing. I don't buy the magic potion for sale down at the local hardware store. That thing has got to have a battery inside. The battery provides the power to energize the crystals to act as an energy collecting device. Like what happened to me at Stonehenge. Wait, is this Indy? Yeah, I guess so. The energy is real. It's rated by the Earth. The trick is to learn how to harness it, which I'm now convinced is just what Merlin did. He was more practical engineer than wizard. Unfortunately, he seems to have taken most of his so-called magic formulas with him to the grave. In my book, Merlin is absolutely real, an incredible genius on par with the greatest minds of history. But he knew better than to claim he was working with quite ordinary and everyday forces. But playing it as a wizard, In a time when people believed in dragons, Merlin got away with the sorcery game. In today's world, he'd be a fantastic con man. I think that is a funny idea to explore.
Yeah.
That got my curiosity going. Like, I like the idea of like exploring Merlin as a con man. I feel like that could be a fun farce. This book is not that, but I like the idea. And I liked how the scabbard worked.
The scabbard was cool. We still don't know how it works, right?
Well, I guess I just mean like for a while, we're not really sure like how Caitlin is surviving some of these events. And then because we know that she has the scabbard, which we talked about in our Arthur episode, but like the scabbard heals. Yeah. Like, and actually there's a scene in the Mort d'Arthur, right? Where like Arthur chooses the sword and Merlin sort of scoffs and is like, oh, the real choice was the scabbard. The power's in the scabbard, not the sword. Because the scabbard heals. And how it works in this is like they've gone through some chemical process. Like they boiled down the internal like elements of the scabbard and made like a kind of golden thread that they
well, it already had the golden thread to it because Indy thinks that the scabbard and the sword are both basically powered by these earth energies, which basically just becomes electricity at a certain point, right? Which is why it's threaded with gold and silver as conductors. Mm-hmm. And then they basically take the scabbard apart, boil the leather of the scabbard, and then toss more gold thread into it in the same pattern to make a tunic for Caitlin to wear.
Yeah, and I think that's a cool idea, like turning the scabbard into armor, basically, some kind of attire, and you wear that, and then you are covered in this magical healing property that before was just like intrinsic to the scabbard. You would have to hold the scabbard up to the wound or whatever, but now your body is covered in that. I think that's neat.
Right.
I like that idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine.
I
find what they do with the sword and the scabbard kind of fascinating. I just hate the fact that anytime something like this is described, they're trying to make Indiana Jones sound like Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
And that just kind of bummed me out. Like, I like the idea of Caliburn being the combat blade, right? Like, the sword of fire forged by Merlin. I like the idea of the scabbard using some sort of like bioelectrical engine to heal you quickly. But every time Indiana Jones figures something out in this entire book, it's just it's elementary, my dear Gale. Like, here, let me show you how smart I am. And Indy is very, very smart in the movies too. And despite his relationships and proclivities, he doesn't do that, I don't think. Like, it's not well, let me explain to you how I figured all this out immediately, as opposed to it's most of the time him running around just accidentally figuring shit out.
Yeah. I'm just realizing now. So we have a character here. He condescends to women. He is maybe a Confederate apologist.
Could be.
Has a fixation on Rome, like the Roman Empire.
Okay.
Yeah. Kind of like over-explains like a Redditor would, and wears a fedora. Like this is red flags. This is just
red flags for days.
This is like incel behavior.
It really is. Which brings us to the end of the book.
Oh, God. I feel like sometimes Harrison Ford face, you get away with a lot. Like, if he didn't wear the fedora well, like, this would all come crashing down.
Yeah, quickly.
You know what I mean? Like, if he looked like the dude that buys the mall sword and then wears the fedora, like, none of this works. And it could all be the exact same character traits.
Okay. The end of the book ends with Gale vanishing. His partner in crime, for what seemed to be even prior to this book, takes a job and leaves him with her, like, bond sister, her coven sister or whatever, and says, hey, you guys should you guys should bone down.
Yeah, that was very weird.
What the fuck, man? Like,
I thought a romantic interest in the book was Gale, and
I
it
did
seemed like it was
too.
building that up, and it kind of was. It's so jarring. You get to the end, it's like, and there's no final scene of them like saying goodbye. It's just like, where's Gale? Oh, she's gone.
Yeah,
but she said that you two should bone down.
Yeah, she's doing a really cool fly thing with the new sky boat that she thought was gross and ugly, but she did say you guys should go ahead and bone down immediately.
Yeah. Okay. Yep, that was a very weird ending. We did kind of jump past the climax. So we've jumped around a lot, and it's because
there was no climax in this movie, bud.
Well, there's gonna be if Gale gets her what she desires.
Good God.
They really like it's there's like they fly around in that first scene, they see the massacre, they have some like kind of magical shenanigans around like the Wicca neighborhood with like the police force trying to come in and investigate like the massacre or whatever. They go to a university, they have some long tedious discussions, they get on an airship, they follow the bad guy to fucking Florida, they hang out in the swamp. And then, like, they're trying to find the Confederate stash of all this gold, bullion, and coins that, like, they were on the run from the Union soldiers. And, like, they probably, like, hid it somewhere, like, buried it or whatever, because, like, they didn't have time to take it. And they were going to get, like, overcome by the Union forces. So it's probably around here somewhere. And, like, then, Indy, you learn after the fact, like, the author writes it like, there's a magical event transpiring, like the fog rolls in, which we've seen previously. And like, you know, they're getting sniped from the bad guys that like have rifles and are like hidden out in the Florida swamps. But then magically the fog rolls in, and then they have like these thundering hooves, and like a sort of mystical force of like riders comes and like tramples the bad guys' camp and just like fucking kills all of them, or just like breaks them up. Like,
yeah, I think there were only 6 of them left, I think.
Yeah, it's not much. And then, like, immediately I was like, Civil War reenactment.
Yeah.
Like, that's what's going on here. And then, like, that is the twist. Like, they, you know, Gale and Caitlin keep asking, like, Indy, how did you do this magic? We've never seen magic like this. Like, we thought we knew magic. You know the real magic. And he draws it out. It's like pages and pages of Indy teasing, like
7 or 8
it's not
pages.
Magic, I'll tell you. It just keeps going. They keep teasing, and it's not like it's a long explanation. Like, there's not a lot to it. It's just like, I checked the time when they were scheduled to have the
reenactment charge or whatever.
Here. Yeah, and I coordinated our plan to that, and I knew that, you know, they wouldn't know that the forces are coming this way. And I hope that a bunch of fucking Northern Florida Civil War reenactors like wouldn't notice when they ride their horses on top of like human being bodies and like through their tents.
Yeah. Not to mention live gunfire happening.
Like, I don't know the grade of person who reenacted the Civil War in the 1930s, but like, I grew up in a rural area. I'm familiar with at least a certain subset of the kinds of people who reenact the Civil War in their free time on the weekends and choose to, you know, go out and be a Confederate and standing around in like a wool costume in the heat. And I don't know. Yeah, you compare that with like Florida resident, and it's just fucking
I got nothing, man. I got absolutely nothing.
I feel like you would notice, like, there would have been a holler or something, and someone would have been like, hey, hold on. What are we doing here? Like, it's not like this. It's not like a headlong charge of like a fighting force that like, whatever happens, whatever you all hear, whatever you think you might feel beneath the hooves, you keep charging because the reenactment, we stay in character.
We stay in character.
You know?
If you kill Derek, you kill Derek. All right?
We've got a medic set up in the at the camp over there. There's no anesthesia. We're doing this legit. He's got a fucking handsaw, and he's gonna take off what he needs to take off. And we got a leather belt for you to bite down on. And we do this shit for real. Like,
this is a real reenactment. Damn it.
Yeah, we don't do this like those fucking Georgians do, or like they do it up in Virginia. No, down here in Florida, we do this shit right.
You ride your horses until you hear Derek cry and scream, and then we stop. Focus on Derek.
Knowing what I know about some people that I know have reenacted the Civil War, like, no, someone in that crew was like, They literally had like half a Hot Pocket in their hand as they were just like lethargically riding through the battlefield. It's like, hold on, I just like, yeah, we just trotted over something here. Boys, let's do a U-turn. I think someone fell.
All of the horsemen look like Michael Madsen in Blood Rain, just barely hanging on to the horse. half asleep or drunk.
Yeah, but no, it works. Like the Civil War reenactors roll through like a fucking just unstoppable force.
They kill 4 people and maim 2 others.
Yeah, and our final like when we finally have our confrontation with our big villain, is like his arm is hanging broken at his side, and he's just sort of like leaning up against a tree trunk, like I'm fucking done, and that's it. And then Indy convinces Caitlin not to kill him, like believe in the British justice system. You want to see him hang for his crimes properly. You don't want to. And also there's like the element of if you use Caliburn to enact vengeance and it's not like justified, you will break your pact with the past and maybe remove the magical imbuement that this weapon enjoys. Yeah.
Okay, I have a question kind of on that topic. Did you notice that he broke the magic rules in this book? She uses the tunic on Indy, and the scabbard can only be used by someone who is wielding Caliburn.
Oh shit. Huh.
Yeah.
Maybe they changed it when they boiled it down into a tunic.
Sure, man.
I don't know. That's less of a jump than to believe the fucking Jacksonville resident Civil War reenactors like destroyed the entire enemy force.
Absolutely devastated these very expensive mercenaries.
God damn it.
Like military grade snipers and fucking treasure hunters and assassins are absolutely wrecked by a mare named Dolores with a weekend warrior on its back. Like,
dude, like I lived in Florida. I spent part of my childhood in Jacksonville. Like, I can tell you from experience, this crew of reenactors, like if they weren't dressed up in period clothing, most of them wouldn't even be wearing shoes.
Dude, I got murdered by a guy on a horse wearing Crocs. Like,
he was wearing cargo shorts in 1936. I don't even know how that fucking worked. He had them, and he was wearing his sunglasses like on the back of his head.
Yeah, and he was wearing a trucker hat that said "Who wants a mustache ride" on it.
Yeah, a t-shirt said "Worst day fishing's better than the best day working," and he was fucking drunk as hell.
Just he has a salt life tattoo on his left shoulder.
Yeah. Okay. The thing, like, this book does not do a lot of things well, but I think there is one thing I can say without reservation that it does very well.
Make me sad.
And, well, okay, 2 things. I want to read the author's bio here because he's a very impressive person. I don't find this book impressive, but Martin Caidin, the author of nearly 200 published books, several dozen technical and flight manuals, and several thousand magazine and newspaper articles and series. Martin Caidin is one of the outstanding aeronautics and aviation authorities in the world. He has several times won the Aviation Space Writers Association Top Awards as the outstanding author in the field of aviation and has also been honored as a master storyteller by aviation and science organizations throughout the world. He is the only civilian to have lived and flown with the USAF Thunderbirds jet aerobatic team and won high honors for his book on that experience. He is also a member of the 10-Ton Club of England for his supersonic flying in the earlier days of mock busting, and is as well known for his stunt flying and airshow performances as he is for his writing. He has flown dozens of types of military and civilian planes throughout the U.S. as a movie stunt pilot and airshow performer. Caidin is the former consultant to the commander of the Air Force Missile Test Center and was involved in rocket, missile, and spacecraft development from its earliest days. Of his more than 40 novels, Cyborg became his best-known work when it was developed into the $6 Million Man and Bionic Woman television series. Caidin lives with his wife, Dee Dee M. Caidin, in Cocoa Beach, Florida.
Yeah.
This is a guy who writes what he knows. At least in terms of like the aviation, I felt like the passages about flying and the airship were really well done and came from a place of like, yeah, this is deep experience and knowledge and is written very well and is interesting. Like the way he describes the construction of the airship was actually one of the strongest parts of the book.
Yeah, it was really out of place. I thought every time he talked about Gale flying the plane, or like when they are in the skyboat or the airship, like the descriptions and the prose was really, really nice. It was the story around it.
Yeah, it seems like we have someone that just really wants to talk about flying.
Which is cool. Like,
just,
I would read a book about him flying, I think. I just don't want to read this book.
We come up with a lot of excuses to get our characters in aircraft as much as possible. Yeah. And I could see why. And I think it's like when they are riding on the Zeppelin and meeting the captain and learning about like how it's constructed, and like he's describing all like how like the layers of cotton and like how it's painted with like silver paint to reflect the rays of the sun, and then like he sandpapers the entire exterior of the Zeppelin to make it like more streamlined, and they boiled down like, what was it, like
50,000 oxen or something like that?
Yeah, 50,000 oxen intestinal membranes for like the bags. Like it's cool. It's cool learning all that. It kind of almost felt like a Jules Verne kind of tale where like he just wants to use this story as like a vehicle to just sort of like explain tech and like really gets into the minutia of this, but it's like described well. It doesn't get too out into the weeds. Like it's understandable by like the layman. I found that interesting, and there is some like, aside from the explanation, some good writing. It is like when they have like a confrontation with some of the bads on the airship, and I pulled out this passage. I thought this was just some good writing. It's very evocative. Moments later, they were closing the hatch door behind them. For a moment, they stared up at the cathedral-like vessel. The Graf Zeppelin seemed to be writhing in pain, the outer shell pulsating. Thunder boomed and echoed like the continuous crash of giant kettle drum. High above and to the sides, floodlights cast eerie lights and shadows. They moved towards the midsection, climbing steadily, at times gripping stanchions and rails. Several times they froze in position, assailed by great hissing sounds, as sheets of loosening ice slid down the sides of the ship to the storm-whipped ocean. Indy could hardly believe the deep groaning booms as duralumin girders and rings bent and flexed. High above them, static electricity danced and flickered in ghostly blue light. Indy could taste the sharp ozone in the air. He had never felt so helpless. "Indy, hurry, this way!" He saw Gale gripping a girder with one hand, pointing with the other. Lightning flashed, sending a brief but intense glow through the fabric shell. In that sudden flare of light, he glimpsed a tableau that turned his blood as cold as the ice crashing down the sides of this huge airborne cavern. 3 men stood on a catwalk. Lightning reflected from the long, gleaming blades they held in their hands. That's just a good scene.
Yeah.
That's just cool. Like, we have, like, the ice storm, and it's, like, freezing the exterior of the Zeppelin, and, like, that's throwing it off course, and we have just a lot of, like, natural elements going on. Like, we're fighting against nature, and then we're, like, fighting within the Zeppelin itself, and there's a lot going on there, and that was cool.
Agreed.
Yeah.
That was a good scene.
That's kind of, like, the only section of the book I legitimately enjoyed and felt compelled to turn the page to see
agreed.
How it might shake out. Yep.
The Zeppelin scene was my favorite scene in the book.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's the White Witch. I don't really have a whole lot else to say about it.
I do want to mention
read it, I don't think.
No, you shouldn't. Yeah. Don't source this one. I do want to mention the afterword.
Okay, yeah.
There is an afterword in this book where Caidin goes through like basically any references that he could find in regards to the history for this. And it was, I mean, honestly, I enjoyed the afterword probably more than I enjoyed the book.
I agree.
The dude did his research, and it was really fascinating to read that research. That's really all I got for it. I mean,
yeah, I highlighted some of the beginning of the afterword. A central locale in our story has been, of course, the New Forest in the southwestern regions of England. It is important that the reader be aware that every single town, village, forest, and plain described in this book is real. And that just is like the intro to, again, he goes into like everything about Wicca and the New Forest and these environments and Stonehenge and the aviation in the book. And then he gets into like Excalibur versus Caliburn and like where there are two swords. Which one was the sword in the stone? Which one was Lady of the Lake? And they've been kind of conflated over time. And he kind of digs into that. Like, are they actually one sword, or like things get changed in the retelling depending on like which legend you're referencing?
Yep.
Yeah, man. Like, I find him to be a very impressive person. Like reading like his bio, like, oh my God, like what a prolific writer, and like all of this life experience, all this shit he was doing. Man, I'm sorry I didn't like your book because.
You sound
Dude,
awesome.
What an interesting... You sound fucking cool.
Like, I want to read his nonfiction.
Wow, you have thousands of articles to choose from.
Yeah.
Thousands of articles. That's insane.
I just... He is a very fascinating author. I think he's very, very interesting, especially in that author bio and everything. I couldn't dig this one. I couldn't dig this book, man.
I'm having like a Jeff Roven moment where I'm just like, dude, I almost don't want to, like, when I learn about you as a person, like, you're so impressive. Like, I haven't done shit.
Yeah, no doubt.
Life. I got nothing. I could condense all my life experience, and I couldn't get like a sentence on my backstory that is half as entertaining as like anything that you just laid out. And, but man, I feel the way I do about your book, so I will say that. But these authors... Maybe that's the problem. They're out there living. So much. You just need to stop living and just write a little bit more. Like, he doesn't need to write more. They've written so much. That's the thing. They've like, well, how many books was it? Jesus Christ.
400?
Was it 200?
200? 400?
That's insane.
Yeah, man. I don't know. Guys, I'm sorry. I would have loved to have liked this book. I mean, I bought it. I own this book now.
I bought it.
It felt like a young adult book for an adult. Like,
yeah.
It was like if somebody was writing a G-rated, except for the massacre in the beginning, like a G-rated Indiana Jones book for a child, but it was just long.
Yeah. Even the violence, though, it's handled with like, yeah, a lot of people die, but we don't really dwell on like the violence of it too much, or like there's no gore or anything, or like really much description. It's just sort of like an event, like to, again, motivate everyone to do what they're doing. And it really is like there's nothing like intrinsic to these characters to make me want to follow them. So everything's just, that's a load-bearing massacre.
Yeah.
That initial scene. And I think it fails. But, man, I don't know. Like, I would say source Indiana Jones, but I don't even know anymore.
Man, that was a real bummer.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And you know what? Like, yes, aside from that, Raiders of the Lost Ark, perfect movie. Last Crusade, perfect movie. Temple of Doom, not a perfect movie, but a fun
good
movie. I actually haven't seen Dial of Destiny yet. I was thinking I need to watch that before we finish our Indiana Jones exploration.
It's better than the other one.
Yeah, I haven't returned to the Crystal Skull since I saw it. Haven't wanted to.
No, I haven't either. I own it, and I don't think I've watched it since the first time I saw it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think people know which ones are the ones we're checking out. Source those. I can't, based on what I've experienced with the books, I can't recommend sourcing the books.
Yeah.
I think these, like, I intentionally picked, like, the worst book. Like, this is generally considered to be as bad as it gets. So maybe there's more out there that's actually more
But see,
enjoyable.
that's the thing, man. I really don't know if I want to risk it.
Yeah. Well, the more you learn, the more you don't like with indie, I think. Here's one thing, like one area that I've not been disappointed yet, video games. Oh, shit, man.
Yeah.
Indie is a damn good video game protagonist. So, speaking of, where we head next?
Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Recently
we are.
released on PlayStation 5, which is what I'm playing it on, and released late last year on PC and Xbox. So,
Which is when I played it.
we will be covering that.
That's next.
Yeah.
And then Patreon episode this month, bonus for all you supporters. We're also doing Indiana Jones. We are revisiting Young Indiana Jones, which I saw some of as a kid, but have not seen.
I think I saw a lot of it. I just don't remember any of it. I know I read a lot of the YA books, like akin to Animorphs or Goosebumps or something, but Indiana Jones, I remember reading a lot of those.
Yeah. So we'll be discovering along with you. Are those worth sourcing?
Yeah. I'm honestly kind of excited. I like Sean Patrick Flannery. So that's
I'm
good.
looking forward to it.
Yeah.
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 And that's the month.
That's the month.
Indiana January. We're here. We're excavating.
Yeah, we were going to do it earlier, but damn,
yeah, it was going to be Indiana January, right?
Yeah, but damn game wouldn't release on PlayStation.
January. Yeah.
Which brings us to housekeeping. Please drop us a line at sourcenotfoundpod@gmail.com. Let us know what you think about maybe novelizations of some of your favorite childhood characters, or maybe you found something out about one of your favorite characters that makes you really sad inside, like their relationships. We're all over those social medias at Source Not Found Podcast. We're on Blue Sky. We're on Instagram. Still on Facebook, but who knows why. You can find us on YouTube, where we have a backlog of all of our episodes, as well as videos of Brandon streaming the games that we cover on the podcast via his Twitch stream, which, speaking of, Brando, what is that Twitch be?
Twitch.tv/LeJuneBug, link down in the show notes. Come on by. We play a lot of cool stuff. Recently went through Labyrinth of the Demon King, which we're thinking about maybe covering on the show here.
Yeah, you may hear that name again very soon.
Yeah, I loved that. But June is Hideo Kojima, among other things. It's not just Hideo Kojima games, but we're doing that this month as well. So come on by and hang out.
Awesome.
And you should also hang out on Jesse Jelena, a.k.a. St. Celican's YouTube, crafter of our great theme song, and just a phenomenal musician. Lots of great work posted there. Definitely check him out.
Yes. Love his stuff. Love his good stuff. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for sticking with us, as always. I was going to end it with don't forget to check your toilets for Excalibur, but here's the thing, man.
Yeah.
I very much wanted to just start this episode and go, hey, Brandon, we're covering Indiana Jones and the White Witch, but can we talk about anything else? Like it was this close to being like, hey, bud, tell me about your week. How you been?
Yeah.
So I can't even think of putting Excalibur in a toilet or.
Oh, you can't bring it on the Zeppelin. They're really strict about that. You know.
I never thought about that. I had never thought about like, you have to wear special non-fuzzy
slippers, right?
They give them like psychiatry wing slippers, hospital shoes.
Yeah.
Never thought about that.
Check your Zeppelins for ice. You gotta do that.
Gotta do that.
That's important.
Don't forget to check your fog for running horses. Ridden by Florida men.
Stay off of Reddit. Just stay off of Reddit.
I 100% support this stay.